Hello, good afternoon and welcome to BBC News. Israel has condemned a vote by the UN Security Council calling for an end to Jewish settlements on occupied Palestinian land. The US abstained rather than vetoing the resolution as it usually does. Donald Trump has tweeted things will be different when he takes over. Here's our Middle East correspondent, Yolande Knell.
These Israeli homes are on land which the Palestinians want for their promised future state. There are now some 600,000 Israelis living in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem, and the numbers growing. In a rare show of unity, the UN Security Council passed its judgment on the Jewish settlements.
14 votes in favour,
describing them as a flagrant violation of international law and a threat to any peace deal with the Palestinians. Crucially, the United States didn't use its veto power in Israel's favour, as it usually does.
It is because this resolution reflects the facts on the ground and is consistent with U.S. policy across Republican and Democratic administrations throughout the history of the State of Israel that the United States did not veto it.
Israel disagrees that settlements built on land it captured in the 1967 Middle East War are illegal. At the UN, it felt betrayed by its closest ally and was especially angry about criticism of building in East Jerusalem.
Who gave you the right to issue such a decree, denying our eternal rights in Jerusalem? This holy book, the Bible, contains 3,000 years of history of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. No one can change this history.
Officially, Israel rejects the resolution and says it looks forward to working with US President-elect Donald Trump. On Twitter, he said things will be different when he's in office. Here in Bethlehem, Palestinians gathering for their annual Christmas parade feel they have something extra to celebrate. They're calling this resolution a victory and hope it will help them in international courts. But Israel says it won't change its policies on settlements, and it's counting on the next US administration for support. Yolande Knell, BBC News, Bethlehem.
Well, with me is James Sorene from the British Israel group BICOM. Welcome, good afternoon. What's your reaction to this UN vote?
Well, I think the reason why Israel is reacting in the way it is because they saw this as a very one-sided resolution. It condemned Israeli settlement building and obligated Israel to do all kinds of things, but didn't really condemn the Palestinians or obligate the Palestinian Authority to do anything. And it doesn't necessarily take us back to where we want to get to, which is the creation of a Palestinian state, two-state solution negotiated between the parties. What this resolution does is say that settlements are the issue, mainly the only issue, but it doesn't really get us closer to a solution.
This is what Samantha Power said, and I quote, "One cannot simultaneously champion expanding settlements," this is of Mr. Netanyahu, "and champion a two-state solution that would end the conflict." In other words, you can't keep doing one thing that you know antagonises the very people you ultimately have to do business with.
Yeah, I mean, Israelis and Palestinians in the past got quite close to a final peace deal. And in those negotiations, Israel has made very big sacrifices that it's put on the table to say it would evacuate large numbers of settlements. So it's true, if it's building more homes in some of these settlements, that creates a problem for Israel in the future. It will have to evacuate them all. And of course it's an issue for the Palestinians. But what the resolution really didn't acknowledge at all, and which is why Israel is seeing it as so unproductive, it doesn't acknowledge just how far Israelis and the Palestinians have got to reaching a deal in the past. And when they've been discussing settlements and when they've been discussing Jerusalem, Israel's talked about evacuating them and about keeping some areas, and the Palestinians have accepted that. So really it takes us back really into the past.
The reason today that this obviously has been such a big talking point is because of what the US government has decided to do in this particular vote. But shouldn't it give the Israeli government at least pause for thought that there were 14 other countries here and they all agreed with this resolution? There wasn't any hint of them abstaining. They all went with it absolutely 100%.
Yeah, there's no doubt this is a serious rebuke for Israel at the UN. And they will have to examine that very carefully. It shows that despite what's been agreed in negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians, the international community is being very strict in saying these are illegal and stop. But for the US, I think there's a particular sting in the tail that this is kind of like a 1 minute to midnight move by the Obama administration. If they did want to get involved, they should have done it better and more productively in the past.
So the Israelis are thinking that Mr. Trump will be different?
Well, I think he's almost certainly said he wants to be different. What he actually does, we don't know.
And just on the wider picture, obviously the two-state solution is still, we are told, ultimately what most parties, not all, but most parties are aiming for. Surely the Palestinian reservation now must be that there have been so many new settlements and the expansion of so many existing ones. But when that state, if it ever happens, is created, it'll be a patchwork quilt of areas where the Israelis still have control.
Well, there haven't actually been any new settlements created for quite some time.
Existing ones have been expanded.
What we're looking at is there is a natural growth of some of these communities, but a lot of that is in areas that in negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians, they have agreed would probably stay in Israel. So we're talking more about the outlying ones. I think the real issue here is that the parties need to get down and talk and need to get back to where they were a few years ago. But for Israel, this doesn't get them closer, and for the Palestinians, it gets them closer to actually condemning Israel in international institutions. But that doesn't get us back to them talking either.
OK, we must leave it there. James Sorene, thank you very much indeed for coming in. Now, the authorities in Tunisia have arrested 3 people suspected of being part of a terror cell connected